Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quantera Global Transfer Pricing Method podcast, where we aim to update and inform you on different aspects of transfer pricing. I'm your host, Adriaan van der Heijden, a director at Quantera Global. Quantera Global is one of the largest independent advisory firms specialized in transfer pricing, and we have a global network in more than 50 countries. And for the last 10 years, over 400 multinational companies trusted us with taking care of their transfer pricing projects of any complexity. We are informed in freedom and follow our own directions to deliver excellent results for our clients and partners. Our experts of today are Rudolf, Sinx, and Mihai, Lupu, and we will be discussing country-by-country reporting, both from a Dutch and Romanian perspective. Rudolf has over 25 years of experience in transfer pricing and is one of the founders of Quantera Global. And we are also happy to introduce Mihai Lupu, partner of TPS Romania and a long-lasting and important partner within our global network. Rudolf, Mihai, thank you for your participation in this podcast. Today, we will discuss country-by-country reporting and more specifically public CBCR. As of 2016, CBCR rules oblige large multinationals, generally with a consolidated turnover of more than 750 million euros, to report specific key tax-related information to the tax authorities. Information is provided for each country where the multinational is active in and needs to be reported based on aggregated financials. Some examples of tax-related information that should be included are revenues, both intercompany and external revenue, local profits or losses, income tax paid and accrued, accumulated earnings, number of employees, local activities, etc. Under the OECD rules, the information is to be exchanged between the tax authorities of the exchanging countries. However, the European Union also introduced external reporting requirements called public CBCR. Public CBCR requires all multinationals with consolidated revenues exceeding the 750 million threshold and operations in multiple EU member states to annually disclose certain income tax information on a country-by-country basis to the general public. So that's a broader scope than the CBCR we're already aware of. Now let's hear what our experts have to say on this topic. So maybe we can start with you, Mihai. Public CBCR is new, and Romania is the first country with a formal obligation to do something with your public CBCR. What has brought Romania to this decision?
Yeah, thank you, Adrian, for this occasion to discuss a hot topic in Romania, because as you mentioned, Romania is the first country to actually oblige multinational companies to do something about this public CBCR. So basically, this stage we are not sure what determined the tax authorities to go ahead and implement this obligation for local subsidiaries is well in front of what the directive provides as the maximum deadline. Basically, you have to prepare the public CBCR for financial year starting with June 2024. But in Romania, we decided, okay, we are doing this starting with 1st January 2023. So that led us to the situation in which we have two different financial year, 2023 and 2024, that the multinational companies operating here in Romania have to prepare the public CBCR for. If you ask me, they had a lot of time on their hands and they wanted just to make sure that they implement the directive as soon as possible. We try to discuss with the local tax authorities and make them understand that implementing it in a hurry is not maybe the best scenario, considering that the European Commission didn't issue any specific guidelines regarding the way in which the report should look like. But they said, okay, we will do this anyway, and we will try to see how we can tackle the issue moving forward.
Okay, thank you. That's already quite some interesting news. Can you tell us more on how Romania is preparing for this, and what are they exactly requested to do, multinational?
So basically, right now, we have to prepare the public CBCR for the first financial year. So 2023 is the first year, and the deadline is 12 months as for the general CBCR. So we have until the end of 2024. And all companies with local presence here in Romania have to actually prepare and file and make public this reporting on their website, basically. There is another possibility by using the local trade register, but as far as I know, there is no currently a good platform to making the information free of charge available to the general public. So the general consensus is that you have to prepare the declaration and make it available on your specific website, and this is an obligation that all multinational companies should comply until the end of this year. So it's quite like almost 2 months left to make sure that they are compliant.
Yeah, thank you. But maybe just another question on this. Do multinationals struggle with this in Romania? Or I think we have a lot of ongoing initiatives, Pillar 2, Pillar 1 Amount B, etc. Is this something that's also giving the tax responsible person a headache?
Yeah, sure. There were a lot of questions. First of all, the multinational groups said, okay, this is a European initiative. Maybe you should try to delay this obligation as to make sure that we handle the problem in the same way in which the general country by country report is handled. Actually, the reporting should be made by the headquarter of the group. And after that, it should be made public on their general website, and the Romanian entity should not be obliged to, let's say, make a separate report here in Romania. And there were a lot of discussions, but we could not find some flexibilities with the local tax authorities, and they decided that we have to do it nevertheless. And after that, the second question that was brought is, okay, I am a multinational company with a presence here in Romania, and I have to file this report. I have to make public all kind of information that may prejudice my, let's say, economic stabilities, because my competitors will have access to different type of information, as you mentioned in the introduction, and I will not have access to their information until they are obliged to reporting in the specific jurisdiction they are operating. And this is kind of a conundrum, but fortunately the local Ministry of Finance implemented the waiver mentioned or provided also by the directive, based on which we have the possibility to delay the declaration or the publication of specific information that may bring an economic prejudice to the group. So this was a good thing, and the local taxpayers here in Romania can use it. We had, let's say, different approaches by different companies, starting from, let's say, the general information that is included in the CBCR, deciding what information is vital or very important and just exclude that. And we have this general approach, to try to prepare the public CBCR by including only those informations that will not generate some possible losses for the group. And we have the extreme version. And the extreme version is, okay, the groups decide to prepare the public CBCR, including the information only for the companies which are tax resident in Romania, and no information for any other jurisdiction. And they are saying we are delaying the publication of any other information until the specific date in which the public CBCR is rolled forward in all major European jurisdictions. So it's kind of leveling the playing field.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's also a good bridge towards Rudolf, perhaps. Maybe, Rudolf, can you explain to the listeners why there is a need for a public CBCR? Who is it exactly for?
Yeah, very good question. Well, certainly it's not on behalf of the taxpayer of the MNE as such. I think unfortunately, even for multinationals, that they have to explain to the outside world unless they are fully prepared to do so already, and also are in, let's say, the top tier of ESG, typically. That layer of MNEs, but that's just a slice at current status, will be fully prepared to publicly show their CBCR to the outside world. So in this sense, Romania is definitely a test case for them, not only the technicalities, but also the how and when and how deep the information should be dealt with. No, this is definitely on behalf of the ones that are seeking information from a multinational, the tax position of such a company that goes beyond their public announcements on their websites, on stock quotations information, and also in their annual reporting. So it does provide the outside world of additional information as to the whereabouts of a tax position, even in a certain country. That's where the CBCR goes beyond, I think, the consolidated information that we typically see with those companies. Well, who is that interested in that information? Well, could be broad range, could be non-governmental organizations, it could be organizations that are active in a certain market, perhaps a bit of pushback for instance, the oil and gas industry, to get to some additional information that may lead backwards to constraints to those M&Es. So this is definitely a critical matter. And I think luckily there are some positions in the CBCR that we have seen so far that may not be necessary to show to the outside world if documented well. So a broad range of parties, even individuals that are keen to have a look at this information, but it's not very likely unless again this is the top tier of the ESG minded M&Es, but if not, well, most of our clients, I think, apart from this top level, are more, let's say, worried about the information to be shared and what's to be happening with that information. And to a certain extent, the history repeats itself. We have seen this on the public information about ultimate beneficial owners that would have to be dealt with publicly also a couple of years ago, and that has led to quite some restrictions by now. But I think public CBCR is just in the start of its let's say near future, and we are here to help the multinationals not only to perform this but also to perform it well.
Okay. Thank you. And how is the implementation of the directive going across Europe? I think Romania we just discussed, but can you tell us something on the other countries, Rudolf?
Yeah, I think most European countries by now have embraced public CBCR. Most of them have, there's a bit of history behind it, have stepped in per June of this year, which means that a multinational with a book year starting after June of this year would have to comply with public CBCR, same as in Romania. But for most multinationals, this will be 2025.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe, I think you just also mentioned something about it, but is there any specific information to be included? And the forms, do they differ from the general CBCR report?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to make a remark regarding Rudolf's previous presentation, previous answer, because it was a very insightful answer. And actually, as a fun fact, here in Romania, the obligation to introduce the public CBCR was made as a change to the accounting legislation and not to the tax legislation. So basically, the Ministry of Finance tried to make it clear that the information included in the public CBCR is for other stakeholders, not for the tax authorities, which already have their information from the general CBCR. So this is quite insightful. Thank you, Rudolf. And regarding the forms, at this moment, we have not a clear indication from the tax authorities or from the legislation bodies here in Romania regarding the way in which figures should be inputted. We do not have a specific form, and the view of the Ministry of Finance is that the form should follow the general guidelines of the European Commission. At this stage, we do not have specific guidelines published from the European Commissions. We have some discussion drafts which were published in August, as far as I know, and we have a feedback period which ended in September, and the regulations are expected to be issued until the end of this year. And basically, the Ministry of Finance said, okay, as a multinational company operating here in Romania, you have two possibilities. Either you use a template similar to that of the general CBCR, and we have specific forms for the CBCR here in Romania. There is form R404. Or if you do not want to use the specific format provided for the CBCR, you can make your own format, but you have to make sure that you include all relevant information, which is pretty much similar to the one included in the CBCR. I don't know if for the future, once the general guidelines are to be issued by the European Commission, most probably, I guess, the local tax authorities will make a direct reference in the legislation stating that, okay, you have to follow those specific guidelines.
Okay, thank you. And Mihai, who will be responsible for checking if companies comply with these obligations? Is there, for example, a specific team set up? Or
right now, we do not have a specific team within the tax authorities. So the Ministry of Finance is going with the general remark that the information in the public CBCR is for other stakeholders. They are seeing this as they see the non-financial information as something to be attached to the yearly financial statements of the company, and they said that, okay, the responsibility at this point here in Romania is for the auditor of the company. So basically, the auditor should check if the local company comply with the responsibility of publishing the report on their website.
okay. Yeah, thank you both for sharing your insights. Maybe if we look into the risks and opportunities regarding public CBCR, Rudolf, can you perhaps tell us more on that?
Yeah, good question again. I think, Adrian, risks typically for a multinational would be if there would be a disbalance between their information shared with tax authorities and the ESG level that they have arrived at this point in time. And the public CBCR, if that would not be in sync, so to say, with the efforts made so far, then the risk would be to get out of control even in the market, because this information, if dealt with also in other countries than in Romania through websites of companies, then it's definitely widely available to the public, to NGOs and the like. So the risks would be that some parties, individuals, would start procedures even towards multinationals by not behaving in sync of, let's say, the current ESG and other type of restrictions that multinationals have to deal with. It could even be that the investors' grade of a company would be affected if certain spots in that CBCR information would lead to a view, to a thought that a multinational is definitely seeking for a lowest point of corporate income tax to be paid in certain regions or countries. We know that this has been the case in the past with multinationals. Not so much in near past perhaps, but still there could be multinationals that have not steered enough, also in combination with Pillar 2, Pillar 1 at this point in time. So this is where the critical elements may become out of control even.
Okay, thank you. And how are the local taxpayers currently using the information derived from the reporting? And what do you think are future trends in relation to the broader public CBCR scope, Rudolf?
Okay. Indeed, as just discussed by Mihai, tax authorities have their own information, so it's not the public information that they are awaiting. No, they have seen CBCR reports for, let's say, 7 subsequent years or so. That means that it's almost as old as the master file and local file setup, which also still is being digested by local tax authorities. In the Netherlands, a test has been made for master file and local file purposes from 3 years ago, 4 years ago by now, I think, to simply see what companies are doing, performing master file and local file studies, just as a test. I'm not aware of such a test yet, let's say, on aggregate level with CBCR in the Netherlands. Then again, many tests have passed by. Also, simple compliance tests of CBCR, where the multinational has been informed by tax authorities like, this cell or this cell has to be reconstrued because it's not in sync with this or that cell or information. That was immediately the case in the very first year of CBCR. By now, tax authorities are more steering on the actual information and to see what can be done with this. We have seen not only in master file, local file, but also in CBCR and also in MDR reportings that tax authorities are using this information to test the initial position of taxpayers, transfer pricing mechanism, and to start an investigation on any of these elements. So CBCR is definitely a relatively new entry, but it's here and it's here to stay.
Yeah. And perhaps I think that they also have a sort of automated scan that you have included all the information in the report. So I think that's also, besides the qualitative assessment, there's also a quantitative assessment. For example, if you don't fill in table 3, then you will get an automated letter from the tax authorities.
So, yeah.
Maybe Mihai, do you have something to add on this to what Rudolf just described?
Yeah, in Romania, in addition to what Rudolf mentioned, the tax authorities are using the information from the general CBCR, for the public CBCR, are currently using it as part of their risk analysis assessment, as part of selecting the local taxpayers that should be subject to a tax inspection or a tax audit here in Romania. Basically, they are scanning through the information in the CBCR, and basically they are looking at the functional and risk profile of other companies within the group. So basically, if you have a contract manufacturing, say, operating in Romania, and you have other contract manufacturers operating in different jurisdictions within the group, they compare the profitability of the local entity with the general profitability of other similar entities within the group, and they are saying, okay, if you as a local contract manufacturing earn a profitability of 2% and other entities which act as contract manufacturer earn a profitability of 5%, then you have a bad check on your side, and you may be targeted for a future tax audit. So that's the stage they are at now, working with the information. So basically, after checking the compliance, and if you have prepared and filed the report, we have very big fines for the general CBCR in Romania, up to 20,000 euros. So it's a big deal if you do not comply and you do not present the CBCR. But in addition to this, they are also
sorry to interrupt. Is that for only for the general CBCR, or are you also aware of any penalties for the public CBCR?
It's only for the general CBCR. Right now, we do not have specific penalties for the public CBCR. They are not mentioned in the legislation. My best, let's say, guess will be that considering that the obligation to prepare and file or present the public CBCR is included in the accounting legislation, the penalties will be similar with the non-compliance of on other accounting related issues. So it's basically list, something like that. But at this stage, it's not clarified that, okay, if you do not prepare the public CBCR, this is the penalty as it is for the general CBCR. For the general CBCR, we have specific penalties for non-preparing and also for preparing within or delayed preparation, so not within the initial deadline.
All right. Thank you. And then maybe Rudolf, from a Dutch perspective, perhaps. I think we have the general CBCR penalties. Maybe you can tell us something about that. And do you perhaps know of any penalties regarding the public CBCR?
The penalties are in line with, let's say, the economic penalties that we see with master file and local file reporting. So they can be, let's say, way higher than in Romania, up to close to 1 million euros or even beyond that after indexation, I think. But to be honest, that's not the standard style of the tax authorities in the Netherlands to start with such penalties. They will try their best to bring CBCR reports to the table by taxpayers, and they will start sending letters, start calling to get that CBCR information. That's their main line of duty, so to say, rather than start sharing penalties across the country. But then again, if need be, ultimately the penalties are there. That also goes for other European countries, and they are typically somewhat higher, I think, than in Romania.
Okay. Yeah, thank you both. Maybe just, I think that this was basically the podcast, but if I may try to summarize what you have just discussed, and please feel free to add anything you may wish to tell the public as well. I think we discussed that Romania is basically the first country with formal obligations regarding public CBCR, but overall it's already being implemented across Europe. There's quite a broad range of stakeholders. The tax authorities is more for the general CBCR, but the public CBCR can also be non-governmental organizations, also the media, etc. So that also imposes some risks. Generally, I think the European countries have implemented public CBCR per book year starting after June this year. Specific information that is included, there's no real form at this stage, as you're still waiting on guidance. Currently it should fall in Romania. It should follow the European Commission guidance, but as discussed, there is only a discussion draft currently published. But regulations are expected to be issued by the end of this year. Some risks we have discussed is a potential mismatch between the public CBCR data and also other published information, such as, for example, ESG obligations. There is also a risk of openly presenting information that may be of value to your competitors. And obviously a potential impact on the image of the company. So the media may investigate also the public CBCR without any tax knowledge, and you can already imagine the nice headlines that may follow. Regarding general CBCR, right, it really is implemented as a sort of a risk assessment tool for the tax authorities, and the public CBCR is for a broader public, so also getting other additional risk as just discussed. And lastly, the penalties for non-compliance. There are already specific penalties in place for the general CBCR rules, which in the Netherlands can go up to 1 million. But as Rudolf also mentioned, that's not the standard approach for the Dutch tax authorities to immediately go for these penalties. But obviously there is a formal ground to do so if CBCR reports are not filed correctly and in full. For public CBCR, there are not any known non-compliance penalties yet, but obviously they will also follow once it's implemented, formally implemented everywhere. Okay, I think, do you have anything to add on these general attention points or?
Thank you very much, Adriana. I would say to our listeners, the M&Es and colleague advisory firms, well, be prepared on this one. please do, because it's publicly spread. Take care of the multinational and your client as such, and why not follow the information shared by Mihai. The Romanian government is typically 1 year ahead of all of us, so it's really useful to see what's about to be dealt with in Romania. Thank you.
Yeah, from my side, I totally agree with Rudolf. Everybody needs to be prepared. We are living actually in transparency years, as I call it. I guess the general rule across the European Union will be that information regarding tax and how multinational group of companies are managing their business in different jurisdictions and how they are paying profits and so on. It's a thing of transparency, and the information should be made public. And to end it on a positive note, because we talked about risks, I can say there are also opportunities, in this. If you are a fair group and you are managing things in a correct manner, maybe you can use this public CBCR, and here in Romania, the possibility to prepare your own type of report, as it is now, just to create a fairness brand for your group, and present that we are okay generally, and not trying to perform any profit shifting or other type of let's say not good practices as regards tax manners.
Thank you. It's always good to end with a positive note. So thank you for that. And thank you, Rudolf and Mihai, both for contributing to this podcast. And I want to thank all of you for listening to the second episode of our podcast. Stay tuned for more transfer pricing topics and more guests in the future. Hope to see you all next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Great day.
Thank you.